Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
The future self is not some abstract vision floating beyond your reach. It is a version of you waiting to inherit the consequences of the choices you make today. Every meal you eat, every hour you waste, every decision you avoid is a deposit into their life. That version of you cannot vote against what you give them. They cannot argue with you. They can only receive what you hand over. When you procrastinate, you hand them debt. When you avoid discipline, you hand them regret. When you neglect growth, you hand them weakness disguised as comfort. But when you work, when you sacrifice, when you endure, you hand them power. The future self is your child, and you are raising them with invisible choices. Do it for them, not for the applause, not for the moment, but because you cannot betray the bloodline of your own potential. Sacrifice feels brutal in the present because you measure it with today's hunger. You think of the meal skipped, the party avoided, the hour of sleep surrendered, and you see loss. What you do not see is the future self collecting every one of those choices and cashing them into victories you cannot yet imagine. They will stand taller, move stronger, speak sharper, because you dared to give them more than indulgence. When you look back at yourself from that future point, you will either feel gratitude or contempt. You will either thank yourself for the discipline you carried or curse yourself for the laziness you tolerated. That judgment cannot be delayed forever. The mirror of the future never lies. Effort compounds in ways the present self cannot calculate. A single page written today becomes a book years later. A single workout repeated for months becomes a body that feels unshakable. A single skill practiced until boredom becomes mastery that earns freedom. But without action, time compounds the opposite. Neglect grows heavier. Regret grows sharper. Apathy grows louder. When you refuse to act, the weight does not vanish. It shifts forward, waiting for your future self to carry it. You cannot escape this law. You either pay with discipline today or you pay with regret tomorrow. The cost cannot be avoided. Most people live like thieves, robbing their own future. They steal sleep, steal health, steal focus, all for the small joy of the present. Then they act shocked when the future self opens their inheritance and finds it empty. They act surprised when their body collapses, their finances decay, their opportunities vanish. But they were the thief all along. You can fool others with excuses, but you cannot fool time. Every selfish indulgence is written in the record of your future. Every act of discipline is also written there. You decide if the page is filled with betrayal or honor. Think of the older version of you waiting at the end of the road. Imagine them staring at you with eyes that know everything you did and everything you refused to do. Will they spit at you for wasting their life, or will they nod in respect? That moment cannot be escaped. No one else lives your days. No one else will face the final judgment of your choices. The future self is the only audience that matters, and they will be merciless. They will not applaud empty promises. They will not care about excuses. They will only measure the result of your actions. Every act of self-control is a weapon placed into the hands of your future self. Every distraction resisted, every temptation denied, every pain endured becomes a shield they will one day use against the chaos of life. Do it for them. Do it because the world will not soften when they arrive. It will demand results. It will demand resilience. It will demand proof that you did not abandon them in pursuit of comfort. If you fail to prepare them, you have sentenced them to fight battles unarmed. If you prepare them, you have made them unstoppable. The future self is watching even now, though you cannot see them. They are the shadow behind every choice, silent but waiting. Each day you wake, You are either building them into a conqueror or condemning them into a prisoner. Most betray their future by living only for the present. They drink poison and call it pleasure. They waste time and call it rest. They lower standards and call it acceptance. These lies will not comfort the future self. They will only make them suffer. Your dreams demand you sacrifice for your future self. A vision is nothing without payment. The payment is made in hours of work, in years of persistence, in decades of unrelenting focus. When you finally arrive at the place you imagine, you will understand that every sacrifice was not punishment but investment. The future self will thank you for the pain you carried, for the tears you wiped alone, for the discipline you chose when no one was watching. They will stand on the foundation you built with suffering. They will live free because you refused to live careless. Even in silence, the truth echoes. The way you live today is carving the bones of the future you. Every habit chisels the face, every thought molds the mind, every action pours concrete into the foundation. You do not become your future self suddenly. You become them gradually, through the repeated acts you thought were small. The world may not see it yet, but the world will see it later. By then, it will be too late to rebuild. You must do the work now, before the cement dries. Every hour you waste today does not disappear. It does not float into nothingness. It becomes a silent debt that compounds against your future self. The human mind is built to believe time is endless, so an hour feels disposable. But time is not a currency that regenerates. It is finite. Every hour of procrastination is borrowed against the energy, health, and resources of the version of you who will face the consequences later. Science confirms this truth in brutal ways. Studies show procrastinators live with higher stress, worse physical health, and lower wealth. They are not cursed. They are punished by their own withdrawals. You think you are cheating effort in the present, but the bill is waiting, and the interest is merciless. The nervous system is not fooled by procrastination. When you delay, your mind continues to spin the unfinished task in the background. This constant cycle of mental reminders increases cortisol, the stress hormone that slowly corrodes health. Procrastination feels like rest, but it is poisoned rest. It tricks you into stillness while keeping the body under pressure. That pressure compounds into exhaustion, disrupted sleep, inflammation, and mental fog. You believe you are escaping effort, but in truth you are carrying double the weight. You pay twice. Once in anxiety today, and again in sickness tomorrow. Every hour you waste is not rest, it is corrosion disguised as comfort. Wealth is another victim of delay. Procrastination robs opportunities that cannot be recaptured. When you hesitate to act, you miss the timing of momentum. You lose the compounding effect of small efforts done early. Money grows through consistent action. Skill grows through relentless repetition. Networks grow through timely connections. Delay cuts every compounding force at the root. You convince yourself there will be another chance, another opening, another season. But the world does not work that way. Some doors open once. If you are late, they close forever. Your future self faces the emptiness of chances you did not take because you were busy postponing. Stress is the tax on procrastination, but regret is the full penalty. When you delay, you tell yourself you will act tomorrow. Tomorrow arrives and you repeat the lie. Eventually, you look back at years consumed by tiny delays that stacked into mountains. This is when the regret crashes. You realize you traded entire seasons of your life for small comforts that left nothing behind. The future self will stare at you with eyes that carry every lost opportunity. They will not be gentle. They will not forgive. They will know you betrayed them for minutes of distraction. There is no neutrality in procrastination. It is not a pause. It is an active choice to surrender progress. Every delay sharpens the blade that will cut your future self down. You may not feel the wound today, but the damage is guaranteed. Time is the only currency where the debt always comes due. To waste it is to rob your own life. You are the thief and the victim. The world may excuse you, friends may laugh it off, but your future self will feel the chains. Imagine your future self standing in front of you. They are older, carrying the weight of your decisions. Their back bends because you refuse to act when you could have made their life lighter. Their eyes dim because you gave them no victories to remember. Their hands tremble because you fed them stress instead of strength. That is who pays for your delay. Not strangers, not enemies, not fate you. Only you. If that image does not ignite urgency, then you are already betraying them. Discipline is not for today. It is a message to the future self that you did not abandon them. Every choice to act now is armor placed on their shoulders. Every task completed today is a gift sent forward in time. The self you will become will fight battles, and you decide whether they arrive equipped or broken. If you act now, they arrive prepared. If you delay, they arrive shackled. This truth cannot be avoided. You decide which version you are building with every passing hour. The body feels the weight of delay as much as the mind. Procrastination forces adrenaline to spike because unfinished work becomes urgent at the last moment. That urgency burns through energy reserves, leaving your future self exhausted. What could have been handled with calm effort becomes a storm of panic. Over time, this habit of last-minute survival shortens life itself. Stress destroys cells. Stress erodes the heart. Stress weakens immunity. You call it a bad habit. Your future self calls it a shortened life sentence. Every wasted hour is not a harmless indulgence. It is a withdrawal from the account of your future energy, health, and wealth. The interest rate is merciless. You may not feel it now, but it collects quietly. It multiplies silently. It returns with vengeance. The only way to stop the cycle is to act, not later, not when conditions are perfect, but now. The future self waits for you to decide whether they inherit power or ruin. The human brain is not made of thoughts alone. It is built of wires, connections that fire and refire until they form the architecture of who you are. Every time you repeat an action or a thought, those connections grow thicker, faster, more automatic. Science measures this with frightening precision. More than 10,000 synapses can rewire from a single thought repeated often enough. That means every decision you make is not just temporary. It is a sculptor's strike shaping the future you. Discipline, repeated over time, engraves itself into your circuitry. It stops being effort and starts being instinct. This is why repetition matters. Not because it looks impressive in the short term, but because it leaves behind a structure that cannot be easily broken. Identity is not written in stone. It is etched in electricity. You are not who you say you are. You are what your neurons fire toward again and again. Tell yourself you are disciplined, but act with laziness, and the wires of your brain will betray you. Act with discipline, even when it feels like resistance, and eventually the wiring bends in your favor. That is why every act of self-control, no matter how small, is a down payment on identity. You are teaching your own biology what to become. If you neglect this truth, you will drift into a future shaped by inaction. If you embrace it, you will build a mind that acts like steel. Repetition is the key to inheritance. Today's actions are tomorrow's instincts. Every time you sit down to work, even in silence, you are leaving behind a path your future self will walk more easily. Every time you refuse distraction, you are sharpening the blade that cuts through tomorrow's chaos. These small, invisible acts accumulate. They do not stay isolated. They become habits. Habits become character. Character becomes destiny. You think you are simply repeating an action. In reality, you are writing the script of who you will become. Discipline feels heavy only because you are carving a new path in a forest overgrown with neglect. The first strike of the machete feels slow, the second feels endless. But after enough strikes, the path is cleared. The next time you walk it, it is easier. Eventually, it becomes a road so smooth that others will mistake it for natural talent. They will think you were born with it. They will not see the hours of repetition that burned it into your circuitry. That is the hidden reward of discipline. It creates the illusion of ease for the future you, even though it cost blood in the present. Every brain wants efficiency. It will resist at first because rewiring costs energy. But once you repeat enough, the brain rewards you by making it automatic. This is why the undisciplined suffer twice. They repeat indulgence until indulgence becomes their identity. Laziness becomes their default wiring. Avoidance becomes their instinct. What begins as small neglect compounds into a future self who cannot move forward even when they want to. Discipline and procrastination both rewire the brain. The difference is that one builds a warrior, the other builds a prisoner. When you choose discipline, you are investing in inheritance. Think of every act as a deposit into the bank of your future self. You may not see the wealth yet, but it is accumulating. One day the balance will be undeniable. You will move through resistance with ease, while others collapse under the same weight. You will act without hesitation where others drown in decision. That inheritance was not random. It was built from thousands of repetitions you endured when no one was watching. The tragedy is that most never understand this law. They treat discipline as isolated effort, not as compounding rewiring. They fail once, then claim it proves they are not capable. They succeed once, then grow arrogant and stop repeating. But repetition is what decides everything. The brain does not care what you believe. It cares what you do over and over again. That is why those who keep acting in silence eventually surpass those who only believe loudly. Actions carve wires, words do not. Your identity tomorrow is being trained by what you tolerate today. Repetition is the tutor of destiny. If you repeat distraction, you will inherit chaos. If you repeat excuses, you will inherit decay. If you repeat discipline, you will inherit power. There is no neutrality here. The wires fire with or without your permission. You must choose whether they bend toward strength or toward destruction. Every day you delay is another day wasted building the wrong architecture. The science is merciless, but it is also liberating. You do not have to change everything overnight. You only need to repeat the right actions long enough to let biology take over. Once it does, discipline ceases to be heavy. It becomes who you are. Repetition today is not just effort. It is the future's inheritance. The future self will walk paths you paved for them. They will thank you or curse you depending on which paths you built. Most people do not fear failure. They fear regret, though they rarely admit it. Failure stings, but it fades. Regret festers and it grows sharper with time. Research reveals that 85% of people over 40 regret not taking more risks in their 20s and 30s. That number alone should send shockwaves into your blood. It tells you that safety is not safety at all. Playing small does not protect you. It traps you. Years later, when the chance has passed, you look back and realize the risks you avoided were the only paths that could have changed everything. By then, the clock has run and regret becomes permanent. Risk carries a price, but so does avoidance. The difference is that risk demands you pay up front, while avoidance sends the bill later with interest. The world does not allow you to live without cost. When you delay, the cost of regret multiplies. You may think skipping the risk now saves you pain, but the truth is brutal. It only delays pain until it becomes unbearable. This is why regret grows more expensive with age. The opportunities you once ignored do not return. The years you once dismissed cannot be retrieved. Every decade adds weight to the realization of what you refused to do. Regret becomes expensive because time compounds it. At 20, you can recover from failure. You can try again, rebuild, start over. At 30, you still have space, though less. By 40, the margin narrows, and every risk avoided now appears as an entire life unlived. The weight of those choices crushes more deeply, because you know the window has closed. When you are young, the risk is in the action. When you are older, the risk is in the inaction. The cruel irony is that most never see this truth until it is too late. Nothing corrodes the soul like knowing you had the chance and refused it. People can live with mistakes. They can adapt to failure. They can even recover from betrayal. But they cannot outrun the image of who they could have been if they had acted when it mattered. That image haunts in silence. It appears in moments of stillness. It screams during sleepless nights. It burns when watching others live the life you wanted. That is why regret is the most expensive debt. It charges interest every day for the rest of your life. Action is the only cure. You cannot buy back lost years, but you can prevent future regret by choosing now. Every risk you take today, no matter how small, is a payment against tomorrow's regret. Every bold step ensures you will not sit in the statistics of wasted potential. The truth is not that risks guarantee success. The truth is that risks guarantee life. They guarantee stories. They guarantee you will not fade into obscurity wondering what could have been. The alternative is safe decay, a slow death disguised as stability. Regret is not just emotional. It bleeds into health, wealth, and relationships. Studies link regret to chronic stress, depression, and even shorter lifespans. People who fail to take risks often live with bitterness that corrodes their bodies. The energy wasted on "what if" slowly kills them. It manifests as illness, fatigue, and despair. Regret makes the body heavier because it drags the spirit down. To act now is not just ambition. It is survival. It is preservation of your health, your mind, and your future. The people who inspire you are not those who played it safe. They are those who gambled their comfort for something larger. They are those who stood at the edge, looked at the abyss, and jumped. You admire them because deep down, you know you are meant to do the same. The voice that tells you to wait, to protect, to play small is not wisdom. It is fear dressed as reason. Fear never leaves. You either act despite it or you live as its prisoner. Every generation tells the same story. The old warn the young about the weight of regret, but the young ignore them, convinced they are the exception. Then, decades later, they repeat the same warnings, hoping someone will finally listen. You have the chance to break that cycle. You have the chance to act now instead of adding to the chorus of wasted voices. If you fail, at least you will fail living. If you wait, you will succeed at nothing but regret. Time does not care for your excuses. It does not stop so you can prepare. It does not slow so you can feel ready. Every hour is slipping, and with it, opportunities that will never return. The only real failure is arriving at the end with nothing but regret for the chances you avoided. That is the slowest, heaviest death of all. Risk is pain now. Regret is pain forever. 85% of people over 40 regret not taking more risks in their 20s and 30s. Regret gets more expensive with time. Act now before the price doubles, before the debt becomes permanent, before your future self curses you for betraying them with hesitation.